Are we there yet?
Are we on yet?
Are we on yet?
Are we on yet?
Hi there. Welcome to tonight's Crush Club chat. I'll give you guys all a few minutes to kind of get dialed in. And if you could let us know just in the beginning if you're having any mic issues or sound problems, it'd be really greatly appreciated. We want to make sure that everybody can hear us properly. So are we all good? We're all good. Excellent. Okay, so welcome to tonight's Crush Club chat. Joining me tonight is Andrew Moon, our viticulturalist and vineyard manager.
Hello.
Hi. And he loves us right now because he's in harvest right now and he's doing this. This is how much he loves all of you club members who are joining us tonight. And we'll be talking about all things vineyard and harvest 2018, yep. Right? Yeah, absolutely. While drinking some wine because this is a winery. We're going to drink wine on a Crush Club chat. That's what we do. So yeah, so don't forget to ask your questions. And we have some great people behind the scenes tonight. We have Lionel Trudel, who is he's our cameraman. We've gotten very fancy for you guys these days.
He's famous too.
He's famous, apparently. Who knew? I just found this out. It's awesome. And then we have obviously Jessica, we're catching her with the most concentrated look on her face ever. Behind the scenes, you're going to be doing your questions. This is great. We're just really seeing her in her natural habitat, essentially. So yeah, so thank you, welcome, and let's get right into it, Andrew. Let's talk harvest.
Let's talk harvest.
Let's talk harvest.
All right. Welcome everybody. We actually had a pretty easy day today because we weren't picking anything, so
well, that's good. And
I have really no excuse for drinking this wine. But
you always have an excuse for drinking wine. Come on, you work very, very hard.
So it's a good time of the year. For me, it's actually a bit of a relax. I'm at harvest time now, so all the hard work's been done in the vineyards. Okay, so it's more just to do with logistics now for us guys to get that fruit into the winery on time. So it wasn't a difficult. It was average. It's kind of like a normal season. Okay. This year. In 15, 20-year averages, I'll just nerd you out with a bit of climatology.
Yes, I love a good solid nerd out.
It's probably in the last 20 years, it was probably within the hottest 3 quarters. So it was like a quarter of the years were hotter than say 3 quarters of the year. So pretty average season for the Canadian Valley. But there was also, we had the smoke around in the middle of the season there, but it kind of simulated clouds, so that slowed the kind of photosynthesis down on the ripening processes of the vines. But we've come through all that, and we've looks like we're having like a pretty warm kind of fall, and it seems like we're coming in. We're probably picked about say 20-25% of Tinghorn's been picked already. So,
oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like watching like social media, it feels like we were kind of one of like the last wineries to start picking per se. But then I found it weird, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like it was this crazy, like it was a really wet spring, and then we got hot, and then it got smoky. Like, was there any point this year where you're just like, oh no, or do you ever have those moments? Do you have oh no moments?
That's why I'm lucky. I've done a lot of vintages, and saying that this year's pretty average, and then so we have to make those decisions back in June, whether how much crop we're holding and things like that. There was a lot of vineyards that did start picking before us, but that's because they're taking in sparkling base, right? So
fair enough.
Those guys are taking in Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which is way less ripe than we'd say pick it for still wine production. Okay. So, and that's usually 2 or 3 weeks ahead of what we take for our. So we look like we're going to be picking Chardonnay, say next week. Okay. But if we were picking it for sparkling, it would be like 2-3 weeks ago. Okay, so
interesting.
So the things we've picked at the moment are like Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris. We've just about finished our Pinot Gris, and this week we're actually starting to move into like Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Gewürztraminer, and then the following weeks after that we start seriously looking at our reds Okay, so we'll start, and which is about average. We don't usually start picking our Merlots and stuff until the start of October. So it's about what it was. So I think we're 1 day from last year for picking the first block of our Pinot Gris. So it's pretty average. Average.
Yeah, that seems fair. I think that for me, because like, you know, my world revolves around wine clubs. So I always just think, oh, this is like a really weird spring, or this was like a really weird summer. When really, truth be told, it's always interesting to hear from you. Mm-hmm. Well, no, we're really only
you'll hear from
one
me.
Day. He does.
If it's a bad year, you'll hear from me. But that's know. If you don't hear from me, it's a good year. So it's like no news is good news.
Oh, I like that. So when you come and like visit, you're just like telling me fun stuff. Like, just want to tell you girls I love you. That's it.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
It's true. You do. You do. So the first thing that came off was Pinot Gris. And so is that traditionally, it seems like Pinot Gris was the last thing that we picked last year as well.
No.
Traditionally, is that,
So sometimes, so depending on the season, and depends on what the season's like, different grapes come in at different times. And it's usually either, like we've got Sauvignon Blanc planted here.
Okay.
So it sometimes comes in first, and then Pinot Gris is a really early varietal. If I had some other different varieties here, they'd be in first. If I had like Riesling or something like that, which is a late white, that'd be, or we've got Roussanne and Viognier, which are late whites. So just depending on the season, but Pinot Gris probably is one of the first ones that we always pick. Always. All right. So we've got 2 sites of that. We've got Diamondback on the Black Sage, and then we've got our Pinot Gris blocks up on the Golden Mile. And just depending on the temperatures in the summer and how it goes, those blocks kind of flip each year. So you can't really, there's actually a little bit of a thing that happens in the cellar when they bet on the date that they first start harvesting. So that, I think Coral won that this year. But
did she?
Yep.
I didn't even know there was a draw. Can we get in on that? It's like a hockey pool.
Yeah, it's like a hockey pool. Hockey pool for grapes. But
I want to get in on that. I think I could win just because of moxie. That's it.
So good.
So we mentioned the word smoke.
Yep.
So it's probably the burning. I got to use a pun because it's me. Question on most people's mind, because obviously everybody knew August was a particularly smoky month for us. So what do we do when that happens? When does smoke affect grapes? And have our grapes been affected? So a trifold question.
So for a number of years, especially probably in California and Australia, there's been a lot of research, and probably over the last, I can nearly say 20 to 30 years, they've been researching smoke taint. Even in Washington State at the moment, Washington University's got like greenhouses set up. They actually pump smoke into the rooms with the vines growing in there, and then they test the grapes for different levels of what they call their volatile phenols, which is what drops out of the smoke. So there's a lot of research done, and there's actually really good tests for smoke taint now. So what we do as a company, we actually send our grapes away, what they call like a start test or a test where they see what the levels are at the start, and then we test throughout the season kind of thing. So our first test came in basically negative, and our second tests have basically come in negative. Okay, so the reason being is that Smoke's tainting wines is highly dependent on how, I suppose it's the face of the fire or how close the fire is, proximity to the vineyards. And then there's that, and how long that lasts for. So the smoke that was actually in the Okanagan this year was way different to say 2015. It was actually way less. It was what they call a white smoke. So a lot of the dangerous chemicals in the smoke's already dropped out.
Okay.
So and there wasn't enough immersion time for the grapes to actually pick up that smoke taint. And then there's the variety and what growth stage they're up to is when they take in smoke.
Wow, we're fully nerding out at this
absolutely. I love it. But the bottom line is there isn't any.
Okay. So, well, that's good news.
It's awesome stuff.
So
the pictures, they were asking about pictures up on the screen.
Oh,
And that's actually a world tradition. When wineries first take in their fruit, they usually toast the harvest. Okay. And that day we actually took in Pinot Gris. So we had last year's vintage of Pinot Gris, and then we all spat all over the fruit. No, they basically pour a bit of the wine of last year's vintage into the fruit.
Just remember that when you're trying your first bottle of the 2018, it's all of us just like.
I don't spit wine, so it's all good.
No, me neither. We were like contemplating earlier tonight, like, do we put a spit bucket out? Because we always do when it's Andrew Windsor and myself. And then I was like, it's me and Moon. We're fine. Yeah, no, we're not spitting anything out tonight. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. So the season's been pretty good. The crops are up in the valley. Good vit guys or viticulturists around the valley have been dropping fruit to make sure that they haven't got too much crop load on. That's happened all up and down the west coast. So the Oregon guys have been dropping a little bit of fruit. California's been dropping a little bit of fruit. So the vines actually set a lot of crop. And then because it's an average season, us guys make sure that we're going to get it ripe by the end of harvest. So we just adjust our yields throughout the season to make sure that happens. So it's looking good. There was a little bit of powdery mildew pressure because of the smoke actually simulates cloud.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's powdery mildew it's the most insipid disease in grapevines around the world, and it costs the most money for the grape industry. But it's a dry weather disease. So, and it actually hates sunlight. So when you get smoke cover, which is simulating cloud, you can get exacerbated levels of powdery. So I know us guys are basically, we're not organic, but we do watch what we're doing on members of Salmon Safe and things like that. So one of the great things we can use is an oil, and we use that to spray on the grapevines, and that's worked magnificently this season to keep the powdery mildew out of the grapes. So kind of coats the vines, and the spores can't attach themselves to the fruit and things like that, or to the leaves. So we've been vigilant on that. So it all pays off. That's why I said it's pretty much relaxed now.
Yeah.
Because us guys have done our hard work in the vineyards, and now we're basically waiting for sugar levels to be there.
And fruit to come in.
Pick.
Really?
Yeah.
So interesting that you mentioned powdery mildew and spraying the oil. Yeah. Oh, Jessica has a question.
Is that okay?
No questions.
Absolutely
Stop.
not.
I have a question from Ken Reader.
Hi, Ken. Ken was with us with his wife.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Why is the grape for sparkling picked early, Andrew?
To retain acidity and not as high alcohol level. So when and traditionally it's Pinot Noir or Chardonnay for, say, champagne style. So we'll pick, say, example for Pinot Noir for still production that wants 14%, 13.5%, 15% alcohol, depending on the style you like. Though you don't want that big fruit forward, low acidity wines in a sparkling. So they actually pick it a little bit earlier. So it's a little bit more bouncy, lively, but with less alcohol level, but a bit more acidity. So that's why they pick the vineyards early for sparkling production. Same with Chardonnay. If you actually drank a Chardonnay for still wine production by itself and you picked it for sparkling, it'd be in your face, full of acidity and things like that. So that's why they pick those vineyards a little earlier.
Interesting. So, do we have any more questions in regards to?
Yes, we do.
We got a lively crowd.
Oh, we do. I like it. I like a lively crowd. Yeah. I was just going to say, though, bouncy, lively, and a little less acidic. That's how my husband would describe me. Like, that's pretty much it. Hi, Paul.
Whatever you say, Shalane.
We have a question from Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Is there one grape that is doing better, worse than expected for yield?
For
yield.
She's asking regarding to yield.
Yield.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It is. I know the reds this year, Carol, are probably up on they're up a little bit. So the Merlot, Cab Franc are up around 3. We grow about 3-4 tonne an acre. Things like, I think Sauvignon Blanc was down a little bit, and the Pinots are down a little bit. But that happens every year. You can have, so what that's caused from is whatever happened at around when they flower back in June, depends on the weather. And because those grape varieties are spread over, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks, it depends on how much clouds around, if it was rainy, if it was windy, and it depends on the set. So some years you get some grape varieties yielding a little bit more naturally than you do some of the others. So as in things down or up, it's pretty much average. So there's nothing out there. We've got Malbec who punches out 10 tonne per acre every year. Not that we pick it at that, we actually cut it back to 3. But that did that this year, and so did Petit Verdot and things like that. So but they're naturally high yielding.
So what you're saying is that essentially if we do this online Crush Club chat next year during harvest and you're going, the shit has hit the fan. Oh my God.
I have no job.
What's happening? And I'm just like, ah! That's when we need to be worried about yields. Yeah. Pretty much then.
If I've got to worry about yield at this time of year, we're all in deep trouble.
We're just like, what have I done? What have I done?
And apparently there's a photo of our first bin of Pinot Gris.
Oh, that's nice. And actually, I think Jessica took this photo. I wasn't actually here the first day of harvest. This is the first time in 4 years that I wasn't here. And I'm a little sad because I like toasting and doing the whole shebang. Plus, I really like drinking at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
I said
yeah. She was all just like, I'm in. Yay.
Yeah, and just before, there was a lot of work done by the vineyard, right? So we have to we do all our harvest prep, and so does the winery. Okay, so I think there's a photo went up of the guys. Actually, I think there was a picture of a harvester and a tractor.
It's up right now.
Not doing anything. They're just like sitting there at the shop.
Sitting there waiting.
No, but so there's a lot of just prep work, so you don't have any downtime. It's very important that when we do we actually call picks that all the machinery is working, the guys are ready, and so that means that we get to the fruit, gets to the winery on time. That kind of stuff. If we have issue with a harvester, or we have issue with the tractor, obviously that means downtime, and that can affect fruit quality. So everything's like service before we actually start, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
So we were talking about the likes of like powdery mildew and about how we spray in oil. You know, one of the things that we're really proud of here at Tinhorn Creek is that we were Canada's first carbon neutral winery, that we're sustainable, that we do things like salmon safe. So you see a lot of wineries now are just like, well, we're organic or we're biodynamic. And like, where do we fit on that spectrum?
Yep.
And where were we before you started? And where are we now as far as like vineyard practices go?
Okay, so
I keep doing the trifecta questions. So
no, that's good. So there's a number of thoughts around it. So when I first came here, this was a very conventional, what they call conventional vineyard. And what they usually do is like what they call calendar spraying. They make sure, look, there's a lot of risk and pressure on a vineyard manager to make sure that the fruit gets to the winery.
Okay.
So what you can do, this is a method that they do, is that they'll actually spray every 2 weeks. Like, so they do that in certain viticultural areas in the world to guarantee that crop will hit the winery. I'm fortunate enough that I've studied a lot of, I suppose you call it entomology and pest and disease. And so I have to understand what those pests and disease do and their life cycles and how they react in vineyards. And the beneficial pests the pests that are there have natural predators. So what I did is it's an actual thing called IPM, which is integrated pest management. It's not organic, but it has the same ideology as being organic. What I do is my utmost is not to spray if I don't have to, but the way I do that is use what they call economic thresholds for pests and diseases. And basically then, so I haven't sprayed an insecticide since I came to Tinhorn.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool, and that's a risk, right? That's a big risk.
Oh, Jessica has a question.
I have a few comments.
Ooh.
One we have from Mike says, Andrew is a beauty.
I'll get your number later, Mike.
We also have another question from Anne. It says, how's the Roussan looking?
The Roussan, that's a really good question, and I'm not surprised, but we do grow, so we do have a couple other Rhone varieties here at Tinhorn already. We've obviously got Syrah, and we've been growing Viognier for a number of years. Mm-hmm. So the move to Roussan wasn't a quantum leap, to be fair, but the Roussan, it's funny. I don't know if any of our guys watching this have actually seen Rhone. It's really, really rocky. Okay. So when all these white Rhone varietals are growing,
which is kind of fitting for what we have here.
And if you take a look down our vineyard here, where we actually, some of these vineyards here where we tore out our Kerner and then planted our Roussan in, they're actually very, very rocky, and it's kind of Rhone-esque. And the vines have been doing spectacularly, right? So I'm really happy. The establishment is beautiful. It's like 100% establishment in each of the blocks over the years, and there's some beautiful fruit sitting there this year. And Roussan's like kind of French for rust.
Okay.
All right. So what they mean by that is the grapes actually go like a rusty color before they're picked. Okay, and they're doing that now. They look absolutely gorgeous.
I think the last time I saw them when we did the Golden Mile Bench Walk, Vineyard Walk in August, which was super fantastic. I always learn so much on those. And I'm just like, oh, I get to tell all these people everything that I've learned from you. But I'm excited about the Roussan.
That'll be good. I know we've got some in barrel, and when I say in barrel, it's in large format Hungarian oak at the moment. So when I say it's like 400-litre barrels, it's been sitting there for probably 18 months now. We've got the second block that we're coming on is very good. Now, first, we've got some young ones too that aren't producing at the moment. So we're very excited. We're going to have that as a Golden Mile single varietal Roussan, which will be really cool when that comes out. So
it will be.
I'm guessing your members might get some of that.
I hope so. Yeah. They will if I have anything to say about it.
I'm thinking it's time for a poll.
Ooh, a poll. Tell me more.
We're going to do a poll.
Okay.
Did we answer that question? No, we didn't.
No, you can answer it after.
What?
But we didn't. The
Roussan question?
I didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
No, I think we talked about the Roussan question. Yeah.
Oh, you have a Roussan question?
No, we had a Roussan question.
Just thinking about the
poll.
The poll. I do know what the poll is. The poll is how much do we hand harvest at Tinhorn Creek? Bam! I pay attention. I may have helped write the poll.
I'm not paying attention.
I know, that's okay. You're not paid to pay attention. That's me. So how much do we hand harvest at Tinhorn Creek? So Jessica, if you want to let us know
our options. Okay, so we an option is you don't handpick any.
Okay.
None. 5%.
Okay.
10%. 15%. Or 30%.
Ooh. There's so many.
Oh, it's like a.
Ooh, it's so close to call.
It's like an E. There's an A, B, C, D,
or E. Yeah. Or all of the above. That would really throw people if we're just like, all of the above, and they're like, no, I have to do math. No, I don't want to do it.
So far, nobody agrees with none, so that's a good sign.
Well, I hope not, since one of those pictures said hand-picked on.
Well, that's after. Giving away the next slide.
That's okay. That's what I do. I'm just giving you guys a freebie. All right, who's our winner so far?
So far, 15%.
15%? Okay, that's a pretty solid 15%. So while they're still kind of answering, I do have to ask this. So we know that we're sustainable, we do things, we're integrated pest management. What are the big differences between integrated pest management versus biodynamic?
Is that because I didn't answer the question properly before?
Kind of. And so if you went like organic versus biodynamic versus integrated pest management, what are the two things that set them apart, and what are the two things that are kind of similar?
There's only two things that I probably do in our vineyards that isn't classed as organic. Okay. One is that around flowering time, I actually use a synthetic product for powdery mildew.
Okay.
Which is like a synthesized fungus spray out of South America.
That's that weird mushroom thing, right?
They take mushroom spores out of South America and then synthesize them. And what in South America is happening, the mushroom's growing and it's spreading its spores on the ground as a competition thing, so other fungus doesn't grow next to it. Okay. So they've actually taken that and synthesized it, and then we use that on our grapevines to kill powdery mildew. So that's one thing, but it's not organically certified. Okay. And the other thing is that in my young blocks, I still do use herbicide. Okay. Just for establishment reasons, to make sure that the blocks, like 100%, that the vines come up, because weeds are actually one of the major causes of loss of income and loss of consistency and loss of yield in a vineyard. So when we're actually developing young blocks, we try to keep them pretty clean of, say, the competition. So under organics, our options are to move to steam, fire, which is not a good thing in Okanagan because it actually set fire to the ground to burn.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But they're the options down the track. And to say that, the farmers don't really have a choice here. The BC government and or the federal government hasn't registered the beautiful products that are available under organic regimes for herbicides. So we're still stuck with the old chemicals, right? Yeah. So us guys are waiting for the CFIA to register products so we can use them. We know they're available just 20 kilometres to the south.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're waiting for those kind of products. I know Tinhorn, we're just actually purchasing an undervine mower. So that will help us move forward down the track. We are, like I said, we have that ideology in place, but I also have 24 staff here at Tinhorn that if I screw up in the vineyards because I went totally organic and then we didn't get any fruit, no one's got a job. My vision of that is that no one's around the next day to look after the environment like we want to. Someone else could buy us out that doesn't have that vision. Okay, so like I said, I haven't sprayed insecticides. We can do all that. I'm certified with Salmon Safe, which are those guys are great. We're at the top of that chain for the salmon run here in the Columbia River Basin. So we're fully involved with those guys. They've got a really harsh auditing process, actually. So, yeah. And so I'm happy not being organic. But I have that ideology, but I'm still protecting our business. How's that?
I like that. And so then biodynamic. I've been to wineries before, and it's just kind of like, we're biodynamic, and I just feel like it's like people like dancing in the moonlight, kind of. But like, so like, explain like what is being biodynamic? Like, does every winery kind of be biodynamic, or like?
No, every winery is not biodynamic, and that's the same kind of ideology I've got behind IPM. So if a viticulturist has got a biodynamic outlook, good enough to him. Okay, there's no judgment of that, whatever. And I don't know the mechanics behind, say, what phases of the moon I'm supposed to do things. But saying that, there's movements of where people will drink wine on certain days, like fruit days and root days and whatever. If that's what works, that's what works.
And we kind of do that because we know, like, tonight's a full moon, and we're always worried about a frost outside of full moon, right?
But that's okay. That's a different thing.
Okay.
And also crazy wine drinkers, full moon.
Crazy people.
Oh my God, it's my people's night. No, I'm teasing.
But whatever works for a winery, and look, it's the same as there's irrigation practices around the world that there's 50-50 split on. There's, ways that you harden off vines. There's always different ways that different people do stuff, which is an advantage because it makes the wine different and everyone's different. And so it gives a really nice wine to someone.
I like it.
Yeah.
So I think we like talked through the poll, which is good because most of the time in polls, it's like dead air. And we're just like, so tell us your thoughts, people. And we just kind of go, doo-doo-doo. So what was our final answers?
This is actually pretty interesting because we have a tie.
Ooh.
We have a tie with 5% and 15%. So
all right.
Pretty smart people in the room here.
Alrighty. So Andrew, tell us the answer.
All right. So,
everybody's dying to know.
Yeah. So we actually, probably on average, we do about 15% hand picking at Tinhorn.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a number of reasons for that. Some of the places, so first of all, I'll start with machine harvesting versus hand picking.
Okay.
So I don't have a cell phone because it might ring. But if you think about the old days where you used to have a telephone where you used to go like this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Jess doesn't remember those days.
And the cell phones that you have today, machine harvesters have done exactly the same thing in technology.
Oh, okay.
So that being said, a lot of machines now pick fruit better than people can. Okay?
That's kind of crazy.
Because you can set the machines to pick a certain quality of grape. They've got like optical sorters on them, so they can pick. What's the name of the designer color booklet?
Oh, Patones? Patones, yeah.
So
Patones.
You can actually put a Patone shade into a machine harvester and pick fruit on a Patone shade. This is no bull. So you can do that. You can, and it's also got a destemmer on board, all those kind of things. So machines now are so advanced that you can actually do that. And then you've got what you want for style. So a lot of things we hand pick at Tin Horn would be for a style component. So if we're doing, say, whole cluster or whole bunch, especially for Pinot Noir, so you get the stems which give you a bit more body and stuff like that in the wines, we'll actually go out and purposely hand pick those blocks to do that.
Okay.
Because of the labour shortages and stuff that are across agriculture in the world, that's why the machines have become so important because, hey, any of you tomorrow, if you want to come and pick from me.
Oh, I actually have a comment. Mike would like a job.
Okay, so Mike's got a job. Definitely send me your number now, Mike.
Yeah,
all good.
Yeah. Now he really loves you.
So depending on what style you want and the labour, everything, and the way that the vineyards are set up historically in Okanagan especially, they're not set up for machine harvesting. So whereas if you go to California and you're drinking $150 bottle of Beringer, it's all been machine harvested, right? So it just depends where you are in the world. I was in the Douro, I was in Quinta de Crasto, and they're machine harvesting the fruit. And it's a 600-year-old vineyard. So it doesn't really matter about how old the vines are, all those kind of things. It's how the vineyard's set up, and it's your labour component that's there and things like that. So,
yes, Jessica?
Question about a harvester.
Yeah.
They want to know how much it costs.
So
comparatively between hand harvest and machine harvest.
So I can give you that. I know the figures straight off that. So
and the machine too.
Yeah. So cost of picking with a machine harvester is about $600 an acre. That includes all the tractor drivers and the tractors that are involved with it, the fuel costs, etc. So, and that's the hire of a harvester. If you hand pick, it's $1,000 an acre. So, in these times of competition, that's $400 an acre difference between machine harvesting and hand picking. So, that's a huge thing, and as the wine industry becomes more competitive, you'll see a lot more machine harvesting happening just due to that fact, which makes the wines cheaper for the consumers.
Yeah.
And things like
that.
So
on this side, I know that we probably predominantly machine harvest on Diamondback.
Yeah, correct? Because it's set up for it.
Yeah, but on this side it's not, correct?
Yeah,
so on this side it's predominantly hand harvested?
No, half and half.
Half and half, okay.
We pick most of it. Gewürzes are terrible. I'm not saying they're terrible. It's a terrible thing to hand pick. The bunches are tiny. They get all unraveled inside the shoots and things like that. And the pickers get really frustrated.
I imagine
picking Gewürz. To pick Gewürz here, I've had between 50 and 100 people in a day.
Yeah.
Now, think of all the paperwork and think of the management of 100 people in a
I don't want to think about that. I can barely handle Jessica.
What?
So think about that. And Gewürz is really hard to pick, okay? So machines, but Gewürz picks beautifully because the berry actually falls away from the stems that the grapes are on, the grape grassy.
Yeah.
The berries fall away really easily, and they're nearly like we call 100-mile-an-hour berry. So we can go really fast with the machine. The berries all come off. It's click, picked clean, and you don't have the headaches of all that. And it's quite thick. It's not too bad, thick skin, so that it's beautiful. Machine harvested Gewürztraminer is absolutely gorgeous. So,
well, there you go.
And so that's an advantage for quality. Things like Chardonnay we machine harvest because it gets to the winery quicker. So Chardonnay will oxidize really quickly just because of its thin skins and things like that. Instead of it being hand-picked, sitting around till 5 o'clock in the afternoon before the truck comes to pick it up, right? So it's been sitting around 10, 12 hours. Then it takes an hour to get processed, etc. We can have the Chardonnay off the machine at the winery within 2 hours.
Wow, that's insane.
So massive quality difference, right? On it. And you've had our Chardonnays here. They're quite good. We don't machine pick the Oldfield Series Reserve because we can't turn the machines around on the end of the road. There's not enough
room. It's nicer that the Oldfield Reserve Chard is handpicked. Anyways.
Why is it nicer?
I don't know, just because I think it's the romance of it all. It's more special.
If anyone's done hand picking, it's not very romantic.
I think he's all going like, we're going to cross-train you now, and we'll see how you feel about this.
We actually took Zola, who's our assistant retail manager, out. She went hand-picking last year, and she's never doing it again.
No.
In her whole life.
Well, what's funny is that Andrew has offered to take Jessica and I out on the machine harvester. So stay tuned. There's probably going to be a funny picture of the two of us coming to an email near you.
It's quite a different perspective because you're up over top of the vineyard and it's actually
quite super cool.
Right? Super
I'm
cool.
super excited about it. I don't even care what time I have to be there in the morning. So now, obviously, we're drinking wine tonight.
Yep.
Cheers.
And because this was the first pick this year, we're drinking Pinot Gris.
The 2017 Pinot Gris. Yep. Yes. You know, probably one of my favorite whites that we've got. I feel like when I first started here in 2014, like our Pinot Gris was good, but it's just progressively like people kind of relate it to like a Pinot Grigio, but I feel like this is more like medium to full bodied. Like it's just a bigger, bolder white than I'm used to drinking for other Pinot Gris.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say so. Pinot Gris around the world is picked in two different styles. So it's picked early, and it's usually Gris, and it's picked late, and it turns into Pinot Grigio.
Oh,
right.
I didn't know that. This is a more you know moment. I'm also like, if we pick this late, it would be Pinot Grigio.
And what happens to Pinot Gris as you leave it in the vineyard for longer periods of time? Obviously, the alcohol level increases, but it also becomes more oily. Okay, so bigger mouthfeel, and that's how the Italians do it in the Pinot Grigio style, and the French do it in a Pinot Gris style. So that's more lean, more higher acidity, things like that. So I think since Andrew Windsor's been picking Pinot Gris, we've slightly moved towards a Pinot Grigio style, maybe, but not to that extent. So we're getting a more bigger mouthfeel. We're getting more fruit flavors, big mid-palate, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I feel like even the viscosity has changed a little bit. You can actually, there's a bit more of a heaviness to it.
That people might like it because I know we've absolutely increased our case production. And to say that we sell out every year, so we actually can't keep up with the production on the Pinot Gris.
We're almost
which is good. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem, but a bad problem all in the same token. Like, it's a good problem when you look at it from like, yeah, that's really great. From a sales perspective, it's a bad problem because you never want your consumer to be out without wine that they really, really love.
No, you just tell them to buy it early so they don't miss out.
We're going to start doing Pinot Gris futures. No, we're not. We're not going to do that. Listen to me, no.
Good job, Joanne.
Thanks. I so don't have a job tomorrow. This is even funny. I hope they're not watching. Don't be watching tonight.
And our Pinot Gris comes from both sides of the valley, this especially being the varietal. So it does come from, we've got plantings, probably about 14 acres of it on the Black Sage. Yeah. And I'll probably get about 6-7 acres of it on the Golden Mob. I also picked this from a place called Hidden Terrace, which is, if anyone's familiar with Oliver, it's up at Covert Farms. Okay. So those guys are basically organic as well. So I've been picking Pinot Gris out of Hidden Terrace for 6 or 7 years now. So they're great growers. They know what they're doing. I don't have to hassle them. They basically go there after we get the fruit. So that's a great grower to have. But they grow great Gris. So all in the Oliver area, basically for our Pinot Gris. But
no question about the Pinot Gris? No, they're just like, no, we love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Just buy it.
Get it while you can.
Ooh, don't even say that right now. Oh, I'm so scared. I'm not scared. Just get it while you can. I do have another question.
Sure. I was actually referring back to the weeds.
Yeah.
Carol wants to know if you would ever use animals like goats or sheep or chickens to help with weeds. Is that something that...
She really wants donkeys.
Carol
really wants donkeys.
So where I came from, obviously, big acreages. We used to use sheep. We actually we used sheep in our vineyards over the winter.
Okay.
It was beneficial to me because the farmer would give me lambs in the spring to eat. But what would happen is that there's the lack of winterization issues, as in cold temperatures killing non-domestic animals, domestic animals being sheep. So we had a look at that, and that was actually, I was talking to James Hopper, who's an ex-viticulturalist out of Mission Hill, and their vineyards are quite close to ours on the Black Sage, and we were looking at running sheep over on those properties. The trouble being that those sheep over there, or if you put in domestic sheep, they'll actually give diseases to the California Longhorn and things like that. So we've got about 200 California Longhorn that actually come into Diamondback throughout the season. If there's other sheep there, they'll actually give them bad diseases and kill the herd off. So James and I both decided, that's Mission Hill as well, we were talking about bringing sheep in for weed control, but we'd actually kill a native population of sheep. So we kind of decided not to do that. Not to do that.
Probably a good idea.
To do with ducks and whatever else, I've got too much acreage, Carol, to kind of herd ducks around property. They probably go away and fly into somewhere else. But
or Paul would be just here. Paul loves ducks. He'd just be here taking snapping photos of them. So.
Yeah, all right if you've got 1 acre, maybe. But
with 150, probably a problem.
But yeah, we did have a look at sheep and things, and it's a very viable option in different places around the world. But because of the winter problems here, lack of fencing between properties here as well. So it's quite unique here in the valley that the vineyards are quite close together and there's no biocontrol between them. You can kind of just walk in. We can walk into Sandhills, into Burrowing Owl, into Mission Hill, into Tinhorn, and vice versa. So the sheep would just run everywhere as well. So you'd have to put some kind of fencing in.
All right. Well, Jessica's asking this question. You need to, because we're going to get to the one that I'm really excited to talk about.
What have I got to do? Like scull this? Or?
Yeah, you can do it.
One more Pinot Gris question.
I believe in you.
One more Pinot Gris question. This is actually something to do with Andrew Windsor. Angela wants to know if Pinot Gris is Andrew Windsor's favorite wine.
I'll answer that. Definitely not.
No.
It's quite a funny story, actually. So Andrew Windsor actually doesn't rate Pinot Gris, and I'll say that. He makes it very, very well. But it wasn't one of the varieties that he was interested in, but because of I'm just going to say, because of the grapes that he has at his disposal here, he makes very, very good Pinot Gris.
It does. It's fantastic.
Pinot Gris is a great thing that he like he says, he can just smash it up, make it, and because of the terroir that we have, we're so fortunate here in the South Canadian that it actually makes a really great product. So to say, so not his favourite product, but he does it very, very well. How's that? So that's really good because the things he really does love can be spectacular.
There you go.
Not saying that the Gris not, but that's as straightforward as I can be without Andrew having to answer that himself.
He would say no as well. Like, honestly, we'll just say no on his behalf. All right. So next up, so we can kind of do this like in the next little thing. So in our glass tonight, I'm really super excited about this. This is our Innovation Series Whole Cluster Cabernet Franc.
Yep.
So if you're a member of our Oldfield Reserve Club case, this will actually, there'll be one bottle in your case. Right now, this is actually only limited to our Oldfield Reserve members. It will open up to other clubs when and after the old Field Reserve Club has had their chance. So speaking from a sales perspective, I fought really, really hard this year, Jessica and I did, in order to get a club exclusive wine. We really wanted something that would just be for club members, and probably see it at Miradoro for Manny as well, and maybe some at like our best licensees, maybe in Vancouver, but nothing that you would ever see on the shelf, nothing that you would ever really be able to buy in the wine shop. And if you could just talk me through like how the innovation series
kind of
came
alluded
about.
to the innovation series, right? So I suppose a number of years ago, and especially around 14, we came up with the idea of innovation series. It was for a number of reasons. It's just not to make wine. It was supposed to invigorate cellar staff. It was to invigorate the vineyard guys. It was to do like cross training. There was all kinds of things involved in there, like for HR and things like that at Tinhorn. It was something exciting that we could do. It was not like our normal brands where we'd put out into the marketplace. These are things like go to clubs, go to Manny upstairs in Miradoro. And it got guys excited. So I think one of the things that spurred it was when we pulled out our kerner. I actually physically went through with a chainsaw and cut the trunks of the kerner off, and then we kind of did like a passamento style, dried the grapes on the vine to do like a orange wine kerner, right? And that was kind of the first innovation one. We've done another couple of things. We've done a method ancestral. Sparkling.
Which I think it's only going to be up at Manny's and some licensees.
Yeah, some of the licensees have got that. We've got a white Pinot, which Andrew says openly that he went down to Oregon and stole the idea of those guys.
Came back
Oregon. And basically came back up here, and that's an absolutely gorgeous wine. So white Pinot, if anyone doesn't understand that, you can have red grapes in a white version because you don't leave the skins to get the colour extraction. Exactly like champagne. So we did a white Pinot. And then this is a whole cluster Cabernet Franc. So what that is basically we just went out in the vineyards, hand-picked them, open top fermenters, did a whole cluster of this. Tinhorn doesn't usually do that. It's all machine harvested. So different method. What that will do, but is give this is more fruity in style.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
And maybe a little bit lighter. Okay, so you get a little bit different, but the expression is massive. You still get all the flavour profiles of the Cab Franc, but just a little bit more fruity in style. So it's a really cool version. It sees about 16 months on oak. Okay, so French oak. I'm pretty sure that's French oak. And yeah, it's just a different style and a just different showing of what we can do here. I know Tinhorn's very well known for our Cab Franc.
I'd say that we have a love affair with Cab Franc. Like we do 3 of them before this one.
Because we do it very well, right? So,
that's a love affair.
It is a love affair. Tinhorn nearly pulled all our Cab Franc out.
That's crazy. That's like crazy
to think of.
Our
regular guys know that in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, because people didn't understand Cab Franc, because Cab Sauv had taken over the world market, Cab Franc was kind of left in the dead by marketing, etc. And because a lot of Cab Franc either from Loire or whatever had Brett issues, or it was very Bretty, totally blended away in Bordeaux, as in don't get many like Chenin in Loire is like 100% Cab Franc. You don't get that very much around the world. And it's a specific places in the world that Cab Franc grow well. And because of those pyrazines and things which are the green flavour notes that are natural in Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon kind of took over the market from it, and it kind of got left in the dead. So in the mid 2000s, Cab Franc became unpopular in the marketplace because A, people didn't understand it, or B, people weren't pushing it. And Tinhorn nearly pulled it out or sold off their Cab Franc plantings. That would have been an absolute disaster because now I'm fortunate I get to play with 25-year-old plus Cabernet Franc vines on the
which is awesome.
Which is absolutely awesome. But the varietal expression there is spectacular. So
yeah, this is a beautiful wine. This is actually one of those few wines that, like, you could even see that, like, on camera. I took my first sip and I just went, oh, it's a happy wine. It gives me the goosebumps. I've always...
it's nearly like Beaujolais kind of Merlot
style,
like, right?
It
so
is.
it's a lot of fruit.
Really, it's a lot of fruit. It's not like heavy tannic. Yep. It's not a big tannic Cabernet Franc. Yes, Jessica.
Carol would like to know the biggest difference between the whole cluster Cab Franc and the Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc, and the difference in aging as well.
Yeah, so the Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc would see probably different oak regimes.
Yeah.
Okay, probably more new oak, more probably, I know Andrew's gone more into Central European, Hungarian oak. So it's probably seeing a lot more of that. This is 100% French.
Yeah, and this is 100% Cabernet Franc as well, whereas the Oldfield has a little titch of Merlot in there.
Titch of Merlot, just to give it a little bit of strength and structure in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into the purism, the
pure Cab
whatever you
want,
all you want. This is actually it. It's pretty similar to our varietal Cab Franc in that respect.
It is, but like as like the flavor profile, I feel like our varietal Cab Franc, there's like a little bit of something in the back of it that just goes, it just kind of hits you.
And Carol, there's probably more maceration, a little bit more heavy skin contact on the Oldfield Reserve Cabernet Franc. So you're going to get a lot bigger tannin structure, that kind of thing in the Oldfield Reserve comparative to this wine. Like it's a little bit lighter in style. It's a little bit like drinking like a Sangiovese or something like that, right? Definitely. It's not a heavy wine. You can actually, I don't know if the colour can see that in this. It's not actually like a. I just use my notes here, but you can actually see. It's actually not really dark. It's quite light.
But it has a beautiful,
it's a beautiful
but it's
one,
like a,
right? So
it's like
it's
a
feministic
ruby color, like garnet almost,
Cabernet Franc's quite feminine as a wine to start with, and this is probably even moving a little bit more so, like a beautiful Chianti or something like that, right? So it was just Sangiovese, but you're getting that kind of style in this wine, so it's a cool one to try.
Yeah. It's an amazing one to try. And so that actually brings us to, we've got some really exciting things coming up as far as like events and things in like Crush Club world. So I guess this is where you get to like sit back and drink, and I just get to be like, I'm going to
show up at some of those things.
You are. You're going to show up at like all of them pretty much except for one of them. So coming up this Saturday, we have our fall Crush Club party. So obviously that's on this Saturday, September 29th, going from 1 until 4. We have Miradoro doing a Douglas fir cone honey glazed salmon with a wild mushroom and green salad, and then like a beet and fennel salad. And then Oliver Eats, which is Derek Ullman's new adventure. And him and Jeff Van Geest are actually best friends, which is super cool that we have them both coming. And Derek is going to do a slow smoked brisket, like a 16-hour smoked brisket over grape cane, basted in Tinhorn Creek's The Creek barbecue sauce. Right? Oh my God, I'm starving right now, and I had dinner before this. So we're going to do that, and then Crosstown Bus will be here. And then going back to the Innovation Series Cabernet Franc, during Fall Wine Fest is starting this weekend, right? Yep. And so if you're out, we're actually doing an Awaken Your Senses Cabernet Franc tasting. It's a little event that Muriel Allen came up with, who is our retail and experiences manager. And we had this idea of doing an Awaken Your Senses Cabernet Franc tasting. So doing the whole cluster. Ooh. Compared to our varietal Cab Franc, our Oldfield Reserve Cab Franc, right? And then another Cabernet Franc, like single varietal from the South Okanagan or Similkameen. So you'll get to see the differences of it. It'll be seeing the nuances of aromas and flavors.
When's that?
This is actually October 4th and 5th.
Nice.
It's complimentary to club members. It's a $40 value, so it's $20 per ticket usually. Pretty much October 4th is sold out now because it's only 8 seatings per. So we have I think we have 6 seatings left for October 5th, and then maybe 4 or 6 or 4 tastings for October 5th for the 1 p.m. So really, really cool about that. And then...
What about my grazing in the vineyard?
Then there's grazing in the vineyard, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So you can go for a hike with this guy again and have.
We won't hike very far.
You won't hike very far. Like honestly, like it's.
We might drink a little wine.
It's like a walk. It's like a meander through the vineyards, and it's fantastic. Highly recommend. And then you, me, and Jessica will be hitting it up in Vancouver. For our 3rd Vancouver Wine Club pickup party.
Perfect.
At Viges, again, on the October 21st.
Excellent.
From
on
1 until 3. On the patio, unless the weather is really crap.
They've got heaters.
They've got heaters. But here's the great thing. So we're already probably 60 to 65% sold out on that one. So here's the thing. If you can't pick up your fall wine, or you just want to come to the event, you can. Tickets are $49 per person. Definitely you don't want to miss out on it. Viges is a great venue. Great Indian food bites with all of our fall releases. We had a great time in June.
Absolutely.
Right?
And if no one knows that the Somm actually at Viges is Sean Nelson.
Yeah.
And he won Somm of the Year this year from the Sommeliers Guild.
Which is so cool.
I'm hoping, I know he's in New Zealand at the moment, and I'm going to try and do my best to actually get him there, right? It would be cool. It would be really cool because I've got kind of a little man love on him, but it's all right.
You have a little man crush? Even though he's in New Zealand right now. That's so cute. You just have to disregard. So,
but if he shows up, that would be really cool.
That would be so cool.
That would be cool.
So cool. And then, obviously, next up, our next Crush Club chat is me and Andrew Windsor. Myself and Andrew Windsor drinking through the fall wine selections. Because Andrew and Windsor and I only do a Crush Club chat when we're drinking through 6 to 8 wines. It's really the only way we tolerate each other. It happens. But I love them.
Excellent.
Yes.
Very good.
No more questions? We're good?
I do have actually one little comment that I thought was quite cute. From an Andrew. You guys make the best Cab Franc in the Valley. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Stoney.
Aww.
Really nice.
Aww.
From one Andrew to another.
I'm just guessing it's Stoney. And I'm going to say back to him, he makes some of the best Chardonnay in the Valley.
It's Andrew Whiff.
No, Andrew Whiff is a club member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew Whiff.
Yeah.
I just thought it might have been, I was thinking it was Anarchist Wines, Andrew.
No, which oddly enough, though, bringing it back to this is actually picked off a vineyard on Anarchist Mountain, is it not? It says so on the label, so I hope so.
Oh, yeah. This comes from actually the base of Anarchist Mountain, so on what they call East Bench in Australia.
Yeah.
And this guy, it's called Red Brick, and we've been picking Cab Franc off him for 8 years, I think. And funny enough, in Black Hills, picked the Syrah off his place as well. So he's a very, very good, awesome grower, and we're very happy about him. So, yeah, but that's...
Is there any last-minute questions? No? We're good? All right. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on. I know that we have a really great group of people who are on here every single time that we put one of these on, and I just want to say thank you to all of you. It's fantastic. Thank you to Andrew Moon for taking time out of his busy day.
My pleasure.
Even though essentially he said that it wasn't that busy today because he didn't pick. And then thank you to Lionel and Jessica for making this happen. So don't forget that we've got these great events coming up. So we've got the Crush Club party. We've got Grazing in the Vineyard.
We've got Fog on the weekend. So I'm going to Fog.
Oh my God.
Festival of the Grape.
He will be at Fog.
I'll be at the Fog.
We'll see him.
That was a question, actually. Carol wanted to know who was pouring at Fog. I said
we're not pouring it.
Carol, if you come to Fog, I'll have a wine with you out in front of it.
Yeah, we're not pouring at Fog. We're drinking at Fog. There's a big difference. But yeah, so then we've got Grazing in the Vineyard. Then we've got the Awaken Your Senses Cabernet Franc tasting, which Zola, who is our assistant retail and experience manager, who is super fantastic when it comes to tours, she will actually be leading that tasting, which is awesome.
Nice.
And then we have the VJ's event October 21st. So don't forget, if you're a ship member, we'll be charging credit cards.
And I'll see you all at communal table too.
Oh my God, communal table dinner is coming up as well. There's so many things to plug
mid-October.
right now.
Starts mid-October.
All right. We really have to sign off. Because
check our website.
Check the website. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.